Welcome to Just Us, the podcast where we explore the magic of nerdy living. I'm DnDWife, your artistic guide to all things geeky and wonderful.
And I'm DM Eguile, your seasoned storyteller and passionate gamer. Together we're here to share our adventures and insights into living a fulfilling nerdy life.
Each week we dive into topics like navigating relationships in a nerdy world, maximizing your RPG experiences in small spaces, and growing your own herbs and veggies on a tiny patio.
We'll also share our favorite hobbies, budget-friendly tips for having epic fun, and stories from our homebrew world of Extreas.
Whether you're a fellow nerd, a tabletop enthusiast, or just looking for inspiration to pursue your passions, we've got something for you.
So grab your dice, your favorite snacks, and join us for a journey into the heart of nerdy living.
Tune in to Just Us, where love, creativity, and adventure are always on the agenda. Hey everyone, welcome back to Just Us, the podcast where we chat about life, hobbies, and all things nerdy. I'm your host, DnDWife.
And I'm DM Eguile, and tonight we've got something that we're both really super excited to talk about, J-pop and K-pop. Seriously, we could probably go on for hours about this.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been fans for both quite a while, and tonight we're going to dive into how we got into the music, our favorite artists, and why we love the genre so much.
Exactly. From the early days of anime soundtracks to today's chart-topping hits, J-pop and K-pop have become a real kind of big part of our lives.
Yeah.
So if you've ever been curious about what draws us into this music, or if you're looking for some great recommendations, this is the episode for you.
Yeah, plus we'll be giving you some of our current favorite songs and standing some of new artists, so stick around and let's jump right in.
Again, this is one of those hobbies again where I feel like I always end up having to really date myself in terms of my fandoms because I am just so old.
Oh, hey, we're both there.
But for me, it's always, there's always such a funny dichotomy between our, so my early, probably kind of interactions or getting to experience K-pop or J-pop. For me, it was mostly J-pop
at first,
and that was a lot in video games, background music, or in a lot of the early anime. So that was where a lot of that came through, where you'd actually see or hear something that you might. There's no music video.
No way.
There's no way you would ever see a music video. For me, a big one for me was I was a Gundam fan. So I loved all the Gundam franchises. So if you know anything about, the Gundam franchises, their intro songs are always really big epic plays and stuff like that.
Big
so
songs.
That's right. So that's where I learned of, groups like GACT and TM Revolution, because mostly it was, they did the kind of intro songs, and it would be really funny because what I would have to do is I would have to kind of watch, wait for the show to air on HBO or Toonami, and then you would wait for it to end at the credits to see kind of what the song was and who the person was.
To find out what it's called and everything.
So it was really hard to find because you either had to download, and this was, early 2000s, LimeWire
it's gonna
and
take
Kazaa.
Hours.
It was, not only that, but it's shady. It's a bootleg.
Not on the up and up.
It could be leading to viruses, or you could go to I think it was Warehouse Music.
Yeah.
Or now I think it was FYE for a while, and now it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And you could go, and they would always have this kind of small section for import.
Yep.
And every now and then you would find maybe some random OST from something.
In the international section.
Yeah, and you would look out, and then of course, even if you happen to find something like that, it would be close to $100.
Oh yeah, it's expensive.
It would be so expensive, so it wouldn't be really something you could just kind of collect.
Right.
You would get one, and then you would listen to it religiously,
just cherish it forever.
Right? I mean, I would have my big old DJ pack of all my CDs and stuff like that, because it really was so difficult. But for me, it was really just J-pop. I didn't learn about K-pop until pretty much you and I learned about K-pop.
Yeah, well, until you learned about K-pop.
I guess that is true. So you have a little difference in your early experiences.
Yes. My experience was a while ago. Back in the days of early YouTube, when they had finally started putting music videos and other from other countries on the platform. It was oh my God, we can actually see what's going on in the rest of the world. And I started with the groups like Girls' Generation and Brown Eyed Girls. Those were like my two favorites. I really loved their songs, especially Abracadabra by Brown Eyed Girls is one of my favorites. It's just so cool. And their dance number is like super sick. It's just awesome. But I just really loved the music. I loved the coordination, the fact that these girls could just sit there and do all of these movements in perfect synchronization while also singing is just crazy. And then not only that, but they go and they do events, they do modeling, acting. They're like what is the term in like the acting community, like the all-star, all-rounder, I don't know what they're called.
Oh yeah,
the triple threat or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, triple threat means like they sing, they dance, they act.
There you go. Something like that. Yeah. Gotcha. But they do everything,
Ingenue.
Yeah. So that's how I saw them. It's like they're so well trained.
I think that's like a perfect example of the difference too. It's like you said, you saw them, so like there was a lot more visual appeal.
It was,
but like for when I was growing up listening to it, you only really got to hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, even to this day, if you were like, oh, there goes TM Revolution, I wouldn't know. I don't know what they look like because it wasn't like I was watching music videos. No. I was listening to their music exclusively.
Yeah, only.
So it's interesting to hear with you where you were a lot, your kind of attraction was visual.
And for K-pop, a lot of it is very visual. They want to draw you in with their beautiful, whether it's the male or the female aspect, they just love to draw you in with beauty.
I'm pretty sure the only, like, when I was growing, the only K-pop that I really knew of was Psy.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, oh yeah, that's
Gangnam
K-pop.
Style.
That's K-pop.
Gotcha.
That's kooky. It's crazy.
And it is in a way. It is. He's very big. But there are other groups out there, and eventually when you and I got together, we ended up kind of coming together in that sort of love of that type of music. Another big thing that I liked about it was the mix of all sorts of different music genres and dance genres in their choreographies. So it's just a lot of specialization in a lot of different things, which I really liked.
Yeah, and I think it's really funny too. Like in the early ways of also like recommendations kind of change.
Yeah.
Whereas like when I was younger, you got a hold of something. If you're like, oh man, I found out this. It didn't really matter what it was.
No, like you said, we cherished it.
It was just getting something.
Yeah.
And then nowadays, it's always funny to see where it's like you kind of have to find something more indie. Like you have to be like, oh, I got to find this group that no one's ever heard of, and all these little like minute details because it is become such a much more like prolific thing around us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing a lot more of that go on. Whereas like I said, in my early days, it was very much word of mouth if you were to hear it. Otherwise, it was a real independent thing.
Yeah, it was really just you, unless you had like a group of friends or maybe a club at school.
Yeah, I mean, I still have to this day my CDs and stuff. I don't have a CD player.
No.
I don't think I have really a means, maybe besides like a PlayStation 4 or something.
That we might be able to use.
Play a disc.
Right.
But I still have them.
Absolutely. In perfect condition.
Right, because it's so important.
It is.
And it is because it's also kind of funny too because now as we talk to like how we are now, it's I don't really know any J-pop. Really, to me, I've kind of switched. I've switched a lot, and I've obviously started listening to a lot more, K-pop.
That's true.
In the area.
You have,
and obviously from I think what started for me. Which is really funny is us watching 16.
Yeah, the few episodes we could see.
I'm really into like the survival games, like especially like the comedy ones. The contestant, Big Brother kind of games.
Yeah.
Not Big Brother itself though. I don't need that kind of drama.
Action, but the like reality contestant sort of.
So to watch like these kids like get put through like the most horrific things.
Oh, it was sad.
I was dying of laughter. You say it's sad, but I was dying of laughter.
But they had fun too. It wasn't all horrible.
And it was just this whole thing of like how desperate they are to make a group. And so it was kind of interesting, so I do have a few that I've grown that I prefer, that I like, which is like Twice and ITZY, I think are like probably the two that I actually listen to on a regular basis. Where like, you'll try to have me listen to something else, but I don't really have much in terms of a difference between the two. For me, I have kind of like, I'm a set person. Like I find what I like, and then that's kind of what I lock in. And like obviously, like on Twice. My favorite's like Neon.
Yeah.
I miss the bunny teeth.
Yeah, I know
that
you
was
do.
something that made me sad. I think, but like for like Twice, obviously, large pretty girl group for me being a male.
Yeah.
But also I like theirs is much more of an upbeat style.
Yeah, it's very positive, very bright.
Right, like so it's something that I can have in the background, and they're very positive, as well as they are kind of one of those bands that does have a lot more English songs.
Oh, that's true.
Which
They
does
do.
kind of attract me to that.
Yeah.
And then obviously I like ITZY too, because
Yeah.
ITZY's that other side, more of kind of
They're the brat girl pop.
Right, and we've had funny talks where, you know, in like for like Twice, I like alcohol free era.
Yeah.
Because it's much more the Islander, you know, and it's so funny. But then like, you know, for like ITZY, like I despised the sneaker era.
Oh yeah, the super
when
cutesy.
they went super
yeah.
cutesy, and I was just like, yeah, no. And
No,
then when
we
they
like
did-
their harder hitting
yeah,
songs.
and then when they did like the Untouchable album.
Oh, that
and
was
then,
so good.
And then the Ringo album, where it was like, okay, this is cool. I like this.
Yeah.
You know, so I always think it's funny. It's like those are the two bands and like the two on each group, and I can hear their voices.
True. I just think it's so funny because for Twice, Neon is the uni, which is the eldest, but for ITZY, your favorite Yuna is the maknae, which is the youngest.
Yeah,
so it's so cute.
Shows
they're
I don't really
separate.
have a set preference.
You don't, yeah, you really don't. I think it's just based off like the star power, right? That's what it's like.
And the voice, I feel like both of them have very unique voices for their
true.
groups.
That's true. There's a reason why Neon's current
hear,
solo album did so
it's
well.
like they're the ones where I can hear exactly when they're singing.
That's true. You want to be like, oh, I know that's their voice.
When it's like a group of like 9, you
That's
wanna,
tough. Yeah.
The one you can
when they're
hear
all
the most.
harmonizing, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't tell who, sometimes. But that's awesome. I think for me, on the other hand, even though I started off with K-pop, I've kind of gone a little more J-pop in my time.
I mean, you've even started looking in more of like the K-pop turned J-pop now.
Yeah. Oh, I've just fallen in love. I'm a big JYP fan. I love a lot of their groups.
JYP.
I'm in kind of your same boat with Twice and ITZY. I love them, but I've really, really been into Nitsu currently, and their newest boy band, Nexi.
See, the boy bands,
Yeah. They're both from Japan, and so Nitsu is definitely the Japanese version of that group. But Nexi, even though they're all comprised mostly, I'm pretty sure all of Japanese members, they actually debuted as a Korean group, which is interesting. So there's like a strange dichotomy there. I still consider a little bit of J-pop. I've also really been into Misamo, which is Twice's Japanese members who formed a little group separately as their Japanese J-pop
I like
group.
the new song.
It's so good. I love the little sophisticated nature.
I think it's funny where like looking, just a little sidebar, it's like ITZY just came out with a new one, which we were kind of like, meh, because it doesn't really fit their style.
Yeah.
But then Misamo comes out with one that is kind of the same rhythm, but fits their style more.
It does. It
didn't
really
bother me
did.
as much.
Yeah.
It was more kitsch, and I was like, oh, I like this.
It fit a little better, I think, because it's sort of their
so
theming,
elegant.
Yeah, it's part of who they are. I think they've really built up that persona as a girl group. But yeah, ITZY's a girl group where they kind of bounce around from concept to concept, and so sometimes it's like great, and other times it's a little bit hit or miss, But I think I've also really fallen in love with Japanese artists like Creepy Nuts, who just came out with like the Bring Bang Born.
Oh yeah, dude, that one was
from
so
Mashal.
good.
Such a great song.
That thing hit the ground.
It just really did. And I've also really fallen in love with like Akase Akari from My Dress Up Darling. She sang the theme song.
Yeah, you really loved that. You were
was
really
so
banking
cute.
on her being in the live action.
I
because
really
she was
wanted
so
her to be
iconic to you
Yeah.
being Kitagawa.
It ended up being a different actress, but that's the way it goes. So no hard feelings here or
Right,
anything.
you can't win 'em all.
No. She got to do the crazy, awesome music video with all the actual cosplays. So that's cool.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of cool too because like obviously we didn't always meet eye to eye, but I think it was funny where it is kind of that strange thing that we have is there's also like the shows that we've watched that are K-pop and J-pop related.
That's true.
But aren't really the bands. Like, so I know you've now gotten kind of favorite television shows almost now of K-pop and J-pop, bringing like a whole new level of fandom.
I have kind of fallen in love with the sort of competition, the girl group or like the K-pop group,
the
survival
shows.
group. There you go. That's what they're called, the survival shows, to create girl groups. I ended up watching both of the Nitsu seasons for the girl groups and the boy group. And I ended up also, let me see, we tried watching 16, but there aren't many actual episodes up on YouTube.
We find like the first 6,
and
then it just disappears from the face.
Peters off into either clips or like not actual full episodes.
Yeah, like not even like just like subtitle. Yeah, it's just nothing.
And I will say, I think that survival shows have come a long way in terms of how they treat their contestants, because oh my god, even the first few episodes of 16, I was like, what is going on? I think it's all part of just like upping the drama in some of these shows, and that's the way they do it. But it's like, wow, that's a lot.
And then there was the one we watched, almost like now, probably almost 2 years ago.
Almost A2K?
Yeah, when we were just kind of stuck home. We were stuck at home.
The American K-pop girl group that JYP created,
that one was interesting.
That was awesome. I love it. They're on hiatus right now, but there's been some good news about them coming back in 2025, so fingers crossed.
I mean, for sure, that's been, I would say, like one of your top tier ones that you've just been done. And that I think a big one goes for, we actually got to see that one like from like what I imagine Koreans and Japanese people are able to do,
right? Yeah,
that we don't really.
They get to see the girls as nobodies, and then become big stars, like, and so we got to do that too.
They went to a school that I know, or something. Where us, it's always outside looking in, as not from the country. But
so now there are actual kids in this country that could be like, I knew that artist when they were going to school.
It's a shame right now that they're on hiatus, but hopefully, I know you've been following them Reddits to make sure that we see what's coming up.
I'm part of the Vicha Reddit. I'm a V-Light. We're making sure.
Yeah, right. But the thing I've noticed too, and I think that's also why there's a difference, is I think, kind of like exploring like our beginnings, right? So for me, it was very nuanced. There wasn't very many groups, and so there's been a lot of generational changes over time.
Oh, definitely. Like I said, not just the survival shows have changed. I think they've become a lot nicer and a lot more forgiving. But the music has changed too. They've adopted a lot more genres of both music and dance as well. Like NMix does a bunch of Spanish in their music. They've come out with a lot of Spanish versions of their song because they're so popular in the Hispanic community.
Well, I mean, it's like, like for me, I think we've talked about this, like we were talking about subs and dubs. It's like the more you can hear something in your native language, like the more connected. And now, like so many of these groups, are having English versions, right? Or having entire albums that are almost entirely in English. Now, I read and I hear they get some grief from their own countries for doing that, but for us, it allows this even deeper connection, right? So like I always remembered, there was never going to be an English version of Gangnam Style, right?
No,
there's not. Like they're not going to.
We're never going to get that.
I imagine it would be psychotic.
The
lyrics written in English probably would just go all over the place.
I don't know if I could do that.
But like groups like BTS and like Blackpink, like I mean, I went to
the newer generations have grown up with English.
I would be working in a kitchen, and there would be one of my fellow employees. He would be playing Blackpink, and I would be like, "Oh, I didn't know you like K-pop," and he would respond, "What the heck is K-pop?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Well, you're literally listening to Blackpink." He goes, "Oh yeah, no, they're like a rap group."
Yeah, like, you didn't understand.
No, actually, and it's not like I'm trying to be like, haha. It was just more of. But that's kind of the way that they've kind of evolved, right? Like it's no longer
so popular now. Sometimes
it's no longer we just instantly hear kind of what I interpret as like bubblegum K-pop, the very standard of the old school like girls' generation and stuff like that, where it was very very one tone and it was more about singing.
It's just all about the brightness of being a girl,
and there was no English. Right?
Yeah,
and if it was just because
words here and
English
there.
Word had rhymed better and it just flowed in for them. And sometimes it was nonsense.
Right? Yeah.
But really, you kind of see, and really, I think the easiest ways too is just look where they're at. I mean, Lollapalooza, Coachella, these are where now these artists are where we used to only see them on television.
Yeah,
they
if
wouldn't
that.
leave their countries.
No, not
now
at all.
They're coming, not only performing in stadiums across our country, but they're also going to our music events.
They're appearing. They're walking our streets like they're walking through LA. Going through Rodeo Drive.
I think we were so bummed because we used to live down south.
We used to.
And we saw a video where ITZY was in for KCON.
They went to Venice Beach.
And they went to places where we always go.
We've always been.
And we're watching them, and they're basically being viewed as tourists because nobody knows who these girls are.
No, right? Like most of us
They
don't.
all have webcams holding out.
So they just look like tourists.
Right, and they're speaking Korean.
Yeah.
But like, for us, it's like, man, if we were still there, we would recognize them and it would be a whole different thing. And that's just so crazy to me that, like, they are more intermixed. Whereas, when I was there, you weren't going to find Psy necessarily, like, walking
the
through
streets.
The mall,
no,
right?
not really.
Like, one, you probably could never know who it was. But it just wasn't that same kind of
it wasn't as widely known. It's come such a long way. Like I said, we've now got international K-pop girl groups with not just like the predecessors like Black Swan, but now you've got Cat's Eye and Vicha that have also made their debuts, and so we're getting a lot more
intergendered. When I got men and women both, that's creating all kinds of new little trends.
There's so much. There's also the international girl group Unis.
Yeah, right.
They all came out, so you gotta love it. I'm so excited to see what more comes out of K-pop. It's becoming, like I said, like every other industry, even our own music industry, it's becoming kinder with more transparency as time goes on. And I think that's got to be helpful.
Yeah.
Nothing more than helpful for the girls, and the guys. I think one of the biggest attractors, even to Western audiences for K-pop, is the rapid amount of comebacks from K-pop artists.
There's always something new.
Always. And it's every few months. It's not like here, in the West, a lot of our solo artists tend to even the groups tend to take years, months in between coming back. It's not uncommon.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of look at it like now, it's almost like old television sitcoms where it's like, okay, your show comes out and then it's going to take a summer break and then it'll be back in the fall. And it's kind of like that with music, right? We'll get a summer or spring release.
Yeah.
They'll maybe be touring for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
And then all of a sudden there's a call for, in a month and a half, is another one. So, I mean, there's probably like on average like 2 drops a year.
Yeah.
Whereas unless you're Taylor Swift, you maybe get 2 drops in 10 years.
Right. If you're really good, Yeah.
I mean, I will say, and the one defense of that is that obviously they'll only have maybe like 5-6 songs an album.
Mini albums have become a lot more popular now with K-pop.
They are starting to change, though. You were saying, I believe you were telling me that there's a few that are now coming out with these kind of full-size albums. I think you were saying it was Stray Kids.
Oh, yeah. They came out with a full-length album. They did, my favorite part is the 8 album was so popular and broke so many Billboard records and all that for popularity that they ended up making music videos for like 5 out of the like 9 songs or so that they released, which is to me unheard of. I don't see more than like the title song of a K-pop album usually being given a music video.
Yeah, it's usually like the 2 good ones.
But
maybe.
they made like 3 or 4 different music videos. It was really cool to see, and so it just shows that the more popularity that comes, the better the comebacks are getting, because we're getting more music videos because the songs are just jams.
Yeah, and that to me is also like what I do like about K-pop too, is like, for a lot of like, Western, whatever their sound is, like that's gonna be it.
Yeah.
Right. It's very rare for like groups to really change unless it's like years and years and years and years and years, or a band member dies or something.
True.
But in like K-pop and J-pop, it's like if a particular album comes out, or a concept you don't like, you can wait, and then the next one will come, and that one might be the one you like. So it's not like, oh, they came with an album I did, like ITZY Sneaker, where it's like, oh crud, this is what I'm stuck with.
Yeah.
It's like, no, the next one they came out with next was the exact opposite.
Right. It was a brand new concept, and we got exactly the bangers we wanted.
Yeah, and so that, and I feel like that's that cool, like, unique kind of trend that comes from K-pop and J-pop specifically. That makes it kind of more enticing and something worth willing to recommend to people.
Absolutely. I think it's really nice as we go on to make those connections. It's becoming, like I said, more popular in the Western community, just all over the globe in general, and it's international members of these K-pop groups that are making this possible. People like Bangchan and Felix from Stray Kids, we've got Leah in ITZY, who's from Canada. They're all making these connections and bringing Western audiences a little closer to K-pop.
And I think it's too, it's like being able to see kind of behind the scenes too, because I think originally, especially before it became a lot more publicized, it was always viewed as like, oh, you're going to work for these companies, they're going to work you to death.
Right.
But now that they're like, no, we'll keep the camera on us 24/7. It really shows that it's something you have to work for, but it's not unattainable for like everyone. Like there's a more of a, it's like, not like, being in like the NFL where it's like, it's a snowball's chance in hell. It's like, no, if you work hard, you could potentially debut one day.
Absolutely. And, it's not just working hard, it's making sure you bring your own personality to the table and really shine.
Yeah, and like for me, obviously, I'm a pretty one-trick pony, so like I always, if I was going to recommend anything, it'd be like Twice or ITZY in that respect.
Yeah.
Just because those are my two favorite. But really for me, what I like the most, and it is how I get most of my, kind of music like that, is listening to like anime.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So if you find you hear a song or that one anime that you don't feel like you have to skip the intro every time because you like the song.
You just love hearing it.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to hear the song. Like some of the Fire Force ones were
so
bangers.
So good.
But like later on, you're like, skip.
Right.
But if you find those groups, right? And sometimes you can find that they do not only just the song you like, but a whole other plethora of songs.
Oh yeah.
And that can be a really cool way to find new groups.
Absolutely.
If you're into like old school, heavy synth, TM Revolution's a really good one to listen to if you want to get a real taste of the early 2000s. But really the whole thing with it is that there's something for everyone.
Absolutely. I think everyone's got a little bit, for me, I would recommend probably some of the newer ones. I have a personal love, like I said, for Vicha. They've only got a few songs out, but they're so nice and so sweet, and they've got that like sort of girl crush vibe. Cat's Eyes come out, they've got the sort of like supermodel vibe, and they're like really edgy, and so they've got some really good songs out. I think Touch is the latest one, which is really cool. So I would recommend those two as like some of the newest. I also really like Baby Monster. They're a new fourth gen girl group as well that just comes out with really great songs.
Yeah, that's some pretty good ones.
So I'm always like singing to them in the car, just looking like a crazy person, but I love it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in terms of, like, my final thoughts, it's like, I really love it. Now, obviously, I don't love it as much as you do in certain instances.
Yeah, I've got so many groups.
But the thing I love the most is just how more, like, adaptable it's become over the years, for when Psy kind of broke the stage, and the funny thing is he's not really the first generation either.
No, there's a bunch who have tried before and done
him
really
and
well.
After.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of that cool thing where it just, it just transcends the language. Like you don't need to understand what they're saying, And if anyone tells you, oh, it's in a foreign language, it's like, how many people listen to opera?
Right.
That's not in English.
Yeah.
But that's supposed to be refined and exquisite. So,
and people will go and learn the lyrics not knowing a lick of Italian.
So it's just a connection that you can have to another culture, and that's what it makes it really exciting to be a fan of these things.
Absolutely.
And the fact is that there's a lot of stuff to enjoy when it comes to K-pop and J-pop.
Oh, yeah, there's a plethora, and I think there's a genre or a concept in both K-pop and J-pop for really anything you'd like to listen to. They do a really good job of exploring genres really well and giving you a plethora of things to listen to. It's fun. I would say don't be afraid to just branch out, listen to a little bit of everything, see what you like, see what resonates with you. And like I always do, my personal sort of advice is build a bunch of playlists for yourself of different like moods that you're going for. Yeah, it's just fun when you're feeling a certain way to like put on that playlist and just have all the songs that you that fit your mood at the moment.
Well, and that's a wrap for today's episode of Just Us. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of K-pop and J-pop. Honestly, I think we could probably talk all day about this.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so much good music out there when it comes to these genres.
Same here. Whether you're new to these genres or a longtime fan like us, we hope we gave you some new artists or songs to check out. J-pop and K-pop have a way of pulling you in, and we love how they bring people from all over the world together.
Totally. And if you really like this episode, don't forget to give us a review and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes. And of course, join us on Discord to share your favorite K-pop and J-pop artists, or maybe recommend us something we haven't heard of.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what's on your playlist. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel for even more content. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Until next time, stay nerdy.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Just Us. We hope you enjoyed diving into our nerdy world and picked up some tips for your own adventures.
We'd love to hear about your own nerdy hobbies and see your unique living spaces. Connect with us on a Couple of Nerds Discord. Share your stories, photos, and join the conversation with fellow nerds.
And don't forget to check out our Couple of Nerds YouTube channel. We post videos showcasing the hobbies, crafts, and small living space innovations we cover in each episode.
Whether it's painting miniatures, growing a garden on your balcony, or setting up the perfect RPG space in your apartment, we've got plenty of inspiration and tips to share.
Subscribe, like, and comment on our videos, and stay connected with us through all our adventures.
Until next time, keep embracing your inner nerd and living your best geeky life.
Thanks for listening to Just Us, where we come together in nerdy harmony.